Welcome to Not Just Ads, the show where B2B brands discover how creator-led content drives pipeline, builds trust, and grows long-term brand equity. Each episode, we speak with business leaders, founders, and creators who are defining their categories. I'm your host, Marcus Sherwin, and this is the Creator Economy for B2B. Hello and welcome to Not Just Ads, the creator economy for B2B. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by John Ghiorso. He's the founder of Orca Pacific, one of the first big Amazon agencies, which he scaled and sold to MediaMonks. He's now leading Van to Five, a venture studio launching agencies around emerging channels, from LinkedIn with Influent to TikTok Shop with Shofa, and outbound AI with Longbow, and most recently Reddit with Roho. John has built and scaled and exited in this space, and now he's betting where demand generation goes next. We're going to unpack a number of different topics. I'm really excited to be joined with him today. So John, thanks a lot for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Marcus.
Great. So you've been in the agency space for a number of years, and I'd love to get your take in terms of like how you initially started with Orca back. I think you had it for 12 years, and I'm assuming there was a period of time you were in MediaMonks as well during the earnout. But maybe you could just walk us back from when you started and kind of how you scaled it to the point of that it was to the acquisition point as well. I think it'd be super interesting to learn more about that.
Yeah, so I was an accidental agency founder, like I know a lot of people are. I had kind of an easy in. My late dad had a small consulting firm, so it's like a couple people, lifestyle business, great business for him. Graduated college in 2008 and could not find a job. I mean, I was gonna starve. He said, "Hey, come work for me. I'll pay you commission if you can drum up some business." And this is when Amazon was kind of first starting to become important for consumer product companies. Anyway, long story short, I got introduced to a couple people. I pretty quickly decided to move to Seattle. And basically I had done a lot of sales stuff in college, like door-to-door sales stuff, and basically applied that skill set, because that was the only skill set I had, to just sort of knocking on doors, both literally and proverbially. Bought a lot of drinks for people that worked at Amazon. Back then, it was much more of a sort of relationship-based business, and, basically just figured it out. It was also, I had the benefit of kind of an information vacuum. So, I was going to these trade shows and, as a 24-year-old walking up to pretty large consumer product companies and going, "Hey, have you thought about being on Amazon?" And they go, "Yeah, not really for us." And I kind of explained why I thought it was, and, I can do this for you. And it was sort of like, "All right, kid, give it a shot," And some of those companies turned into very big clients years later as we grew their business. But that was kind of the early scrappy days. That was not an agency. That was me selling, my Amazon expertise, basically, as a hustle. Over 10 years, built a team, then realized I needed people to manage the team, then realized I needed technology, then realized I needed, different specialties and functions. One thing led to another. I would say midway through that journey, I was like, yes, we're a full service Amazon agency. That was clearly the thing and the positioning. And then around 2016, I decided to turn it from a lifestyle business into a quote unquote real company. And at that point, it was already a quite profitable, healthy lifestyle business, but it wasn't built to sell. It was built to kind of just be a cash flow machine for me. So in 2016, I decided I want to really try to shoot the lights out on this thing. I want to make it as big as I can. And I also want to build real enterprise value so I can exit it at some point. So I went from being I was the only sales guy and we basically had no marketing people, to I think a 9 or 10 person growth team, 5 salespeople, 4 or 5 marketing people, significant investment in ads and outbound and other kind of scalable growth levers. We were always good at delivery, and we continued to kind of scale that and operationalize it, build a management layer. But that growth initiative started to really accelerate the top line of the business. So I kind of think of the business in two chapters. There's sort of like the first 5 years, which is sort of like me, lifestyle guy with a team around me. It was a completely flat organization with no growth team. And then the second chapter is like real company, real divisions, like proper financials, all the sort of like, big boy stuff you would do. And that led to, to an 8-figure business that we were able to act 2020 to the MediaMonks. I stayed on for a couple of years, did the earnout integration and all of that good stuff. And I'll take a breath there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, really interesting. How do you think, what did the business look like in terms of when you took it from that step from kind of lifestyle to something bigger and kind of like maybe more, I guess, more corporate for want of a better word in terms of putting like teams in place and so on and management layers? Was the end goal at that point always for the acquisition, or was it like, okay, look, I can kind of put it in and see where it goes? Or when you made that shift, was it like, okay, if I do this, there's a potential that it could be a lot of value? When you made that switch, was the acquisition on your mind?
Yeah, it was. I wanted to sell it. And I knew it would take a while. I mean, I had a mid 7-figure business, and I knew that didn't represent that much enterprise value, because there's multiple expansions. So it's not just, of course you grow the business, it's worth more, but it's like exponentially worth more because you grow the EBITDA, but then you also significantly grow the multiple on that EBITDA once you get over the 8-figure mark. So my goal was always kind of an 8-figure business, and then the other stuff I needed, a robust executive team, so you don't have just this kind of like key man risk in the business, diversified clients, buttoned up, GAAP compliant financials, like all the kind of usual checklist stuff. Internal technology, so you're selling IP with the business, not just like, hey, we're people that do stuff for some clients, because that has limited value. So I really, the good thing about this is like, you should be doing that stuff anyway if you want to continue to own. Like, you want to build a business that you want to own yourself and also someone else wants to own. So you don't actually, there's no choice here. Like, there's no trade-off. You just do the right things and you can kind of have optionality. But yes, it was very intentional. When I think back in kind of that chapter 1, I didn't think about it at the time this way, but what we basically had was we had really strong product market fit. Like, we had really happy clients. They were very sticky. We had really meaningful kind of inbound demand signals. Even though we basically did no marketing, people would go, oh, I've heard about you guys. You have a great reputation. We'd get referrals. People that knew us thought we were great, but most people didn't know who we were. It became pretty obvious to me that the big missing piece was like, okay, we're like this restaurant that makes amazing food, but it's sort of this like underground thing that only people in the know. And that's like cool, but like not what you actually want in a business. Like, you want to try to build it as big as you can and go after the kind of the full breadth of the market. So that's why we built a growth team, and that was pretty effective at kind of the 1 + 1 = 3 dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. How did the business look then in terms of headcount? Like, when you make that shift back in 2016 to up until the acquisition, what were like say when lifestyle business to like MediaMonks acquisition? Was there a significant change then in terms of headcount as well?
Yeah. I think we had like maybe somewhere between 20 and 30 people in 2016, and they were almost all delivery people. So it was like, I mean, I think it was around like a $5 million business, with maybe 20, 25 people. I think like 22 of those people were delivery people. It was basically like a flat org with like one kind of person that helped with the back office stuff and me, and then all delivery people. And we went from that to, I think by the time we got into the 8 figures and sold, we were around 100 people. So a big increase in the delivery team, of course, because we, tripled the size of the business, maybe quadrupled, but also like, robust growth team. We had finance and accounting people, we had HR people, like we had, kind of all that like normal company stuff. Still pretty lean, to be honest. Like, I hate spending money on overhead if I don't have to, but you do have to at some point. So yeah, I would say that was kind of the broad structure. And I learned a lot of lessons from that in terms of what I'm doing now. because, you can't just like pretend you have a 100% business when you don't. You still have to start at zero when you start a company. But there's a lot of like hard lessons that need to be learned the first time around, that you don't have to go through and make all those mistakes and do it the wrong way a bunch of times to figure out the right way. You can just kind of do it the right way from the beginning.
Sure. And then in terms of Amazon, like we'll get onto the businesses that you're working on now and that you have now, which I think are really interesting. But I'm just curious with Amazon, when you have the business in terms of the deliverables, were you kind of covering the broad space of Amazon in terms of AWS, Amazon ads, also then retail as well? So you're like a full service Amazon agency, or was there a particular area that you found that actually generated most of the business?
So we were a full service Amazon agency. And at the time when we said that's what we were going to do, that was actually a significant differentiator. It's not anymore. You can throw a rock and find a full service Amazon agency. There's hundreds probably. But at the time, this idea that we weren't just going to do ads, we weren't just going to focus on the retail side of things, we weren't just going to build content, we were going to do anything and everything a brand needed to succeed on the platform. That meant, everything from negotiating contracts with vendor managers to dealing with operational issues to, of course, running ads, building content, strategy. Like, even though it didn't fit in a convenient little box, it wasn't like content and paid or just paid,
Yeah.
or, it didn't fit in a traditional agency framework, which is why, in my opinion, the traditional agencies couldn't penetrate that market because they kept trying to go, we're a media agency, so do Amazon media. And it's like, it doesn't work, because if you just do Amazon media, but you don't do the other stuff, it's like, it's totally disconnected from what you're actually trying to accomplish. A perfect example, a classic example is like, you're running ads to a product that's out of stock. Well, you don't know it's out of stock because you're not dealing with that side of the business. You're just dealing with ads. So like, that was a real differentiator and opportunity for us. And then I think it became kind of obvious like later that was the right way of doing things. And a lot of other companies did that, but that was like a weird idea at the time. I remember people were going, full service Amazon agency, what does that even mean? That's not a thing. Like, you can't do that. It's like, it was like people really like thought it was kind of stupid, to be honest. Like a lot of people, and it worked. So
Yeah, I know it worked out pretty good though.
yeah.
And then how did you find then when you were in MediaMonks during the earnout, the transition then, how did you find out? Because I know a lot of people that sell their companies, they have this kind of moment of a great moment, I imagine, but then it's like, maybe, I don't know, what am I going to do on Monday, or what am I going to do next Monday?
Yeah.
Did you go through something similar, or did you always have it in the back of your mind, like, okay, this is what I'm going to do next after this kind of concludes?
So, couple things. One, I really enjoyed my time at MediaMonks. I really liked all the people I worked with. It was just a blue chip roster of intelligent people in different domains. That was like the most fun part of it, is like, you want to talk to the like world's preeminent SEO experts, social expert, like any facet of marketing, building technology, whatever. You can just access this person that'll like blow your mind. So that was super cool. And everyone was very friendly and nice. The earnout itself is very motivating, right? You're making more money than you've ever made because you're making the amount you'd usually make in a year times 10. So like, that's very motivating and focuses your effort. That being said, when I was done with the earnout and I was like, I'm not really like a work for a company guy long term, I retired. Like, I didn't just like leave MediaMonks. I retired. I was properly like, I'm done working. I'm never going to work again. That's really was my genuine sort of like thinking on this. And that didn't work out for a bunch of, I mean, it's fine. Like, it was fine, but I did that for a year and was like, this isn't really what I want to do for the next 20. And then it kind of led to my new thing. But yeah, it was quite a weird, I don't know if in my life, at least in my like adult life, I've had such a strong belief about something that I turned out to be so like wrong about, which was like, oh, I'm done working. I don't want to work. It serves no purpose in my life anymore. And then like a year later, I was like literally, I'm going to work till I'm 80. because it's like very rewarding. It's just like, it's strange how that played out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I guess everybody need whatever work means to people. You always need something to do to feel relevant and useful and all those things, I guess. Just one question on MediaMonks. Did Martin Searle have much of an like an active what would I say, an active presence in the company, or is he more kind of like on the chairman side, or would he be involved in the day-to-day stuff?
I mean, he's a total like workaholic, right? That's not a nice word for it, but like he's like, it's crazy. He's in the UK and you send him an email and he'll get back to you at 3 a.m. Like, it's wild. So he works constantly and he's very involved. I would say he was a good example of like founder mode, where he's not like micromanaging or like doing things at the like, lower levels, but he's like jumping into stuff and like poking at it all the time. Like, why are we doing this? What's happening with this client? Can you talk about this? I'm interested in this specific thing. What's your take on it? And he'll like call you and you'll I think this is happening and this is this weird dynamic and we should watch it. Okay, great, thanks. So like, see you later. Like, it's a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it's interesting though, because he's such a prolific name in the industry, like that he's quite accessible and still involved. I think it's really, it says a lot about him. And then now, where you are now at the moment, you've four agencies launched that you are running, each individually, exclusively in their own right. But I'd like to see, or to kind of get your point of view in terms of, you're launching these and they're like, you have one solely focused on LinkedIn, another on TikTok Shop, also another on Reddit as well, and another on lead generation with AI technology. Is this kind of a learning from when you launched Orca and Amazon, that you think of like keeping it completely separate is much more efficient and effective from an operations point of view, and with the idea of potentially acquisitions down the line? Or do you think it could be something that like you could roll in together, or do you think it's much more effective if you keep these kind of offerings completely separate?
I've changed my opinion on this as we've been doing this. Initially, I thought, I'm going to take all of these businesses and use this really like precise positioning, but then eventually they'll all get bigger and maybe we'll like combine them. I actually don't feel that way anymore, because they are all truly becoming their own sort of unique entities, meaning they do things in a different way. They serve different customers oftentimes. They have different approaches, different pricing models, different delivery models. And that's good because they are different businesses. And I think by trying to like smash them together, what I would be fearful of is you would start optimizing to the lowest common denominator, right? So you'd stop doing the hard things and the complicated and weird things, because you'd need to like fit everything into this little box. And I think you might lose some of the magic. And so like, I think they're all really going to be their own businesses and serve their own customers in their own way, kind of in these specific markets. Now, they could expand beyond their initial mandate. For example, Sova, which is the TikTok Shop agency, in 3 or 4 years, is it a TikTok Shop agency or is it a social commerce agency more broadly? My honest answer is I don't know, but I could see both paths for sure, right? So even Influent, the LinkedIn agency, really started as a LinkedIn content agency, like just doing executive content on LinkedIn.
Sure.
Now it's doing ads, it's doing LinkedIn influencer, which is really this kind of nascent, interesting thing. There's a data component, a strategy component. So it really now it's LinkedIn exclusive, and it probably will always be, but the service itself has gotten much more sort of multifaceted and robust over time.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense of separating them out, because as the opportunity with the service expands, it means that yes, you can expand, but as a whole, it's what you encompass. Whereas if you merge them together, it's difficult to do that when you're have different segments of the market, whether it's like B2C commerce with TikTok or B2B with LinkedIn. And I think it's really interesting, because a lot of agencies, full stack agencies, kind of go very broad, but you're going very specific, but broad within that offering, which is a really interesting space to play in. With With B2B then, from what you see on the LinkedIn part, and we speak with the creator part as well, which you touched on a second ago, how do you see that from an agency point of view with LinkedIn? How have you seen that evolve since you've launched the LinkedIn agency that you have, in terms of how B2B brands are leaning more into that and kind of the value that they get from that as well?
So, LinkedIn has been around for 20 years, but the opportunity for a B2B brand, if they're focused on especially mid and upper funnel activation, the opportunity on LinkedIn, I still think represents the single biggest sort of alpha opportunity in all of marketing for a B2B brand. And specifically, the ability to take whatever makes your company unique, the people, of course, the key voices, but also the data, the access, the sort of the various theses you have, the case studies, to take all of that information and to craft a content strategy and then distribute it through this platform that still has far more attention than it does content being distributed. So there's a significant amount of organic reach, and then amplify it through paid, amplify it through influencer. It really can be a true like needle mover in terms of overall top line performance for a business if they approach it in the right way. So while the platform's been around for a very long time, in a way, it's still kind of like early innings for the opportunity. Like LinkedIn will continue to get bigger as a organization. They'll get more users. Those users will likely spend more time on the platform. That's at least been the historical sort of trend line. But right now, there's still far more consumers of information than creators of that information. And that's where the sort of alpha opportunity exists.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Excuse me. In terms of predictions then in the agency space, like where do you see this going in the next, say, 5 to 7 years? Maybe not that long out, because I know with AI and everything, it's very hard to predict that far out, but maybe in the next, say, 6 to 18 to 24 months, where do you see the model going in terms of how agencies are bringing a value add to businesses, to brands? Where do you see the future for them?
Yeah, so I think there's going to be two types of agencies in the future. And if I was being cute about it, I'd say three, and I'll explain why. But there's going to be agencies that do AI implementation for other companies, and not just broadly, but like in a specific niche for a specific domain in a specific way, but like broadly, they build or implement AI for other businesses. And then there will be agencies that take AI, actually, let me say it this way. They take unique human expertise, insight, strategy, communication, like the stuff that humans are still really exceptionally good at compared to AI. They filter that through an AI system and then point it at a specific problem set, right? And a specific kind of series of outcomes. Again, could be a specific platform, could be a specific kind of use case, etc. Those are the two agency models. If I was being cute, I'd say there's a third, and that's like, you're going to go away, is the third option. But I really do believe those are the only two. And I think the big incumbent agencies are going to have a very hard time becoming either one of those because of the innovator's dilemma, basically, because the people you need to do this and the structure and the, economics and like all of the institutional momentum has to radically change from the traditional agency model. And I don't think the big guys are going to be able to change fast enough. And I think, obviously I'm very biased here. I think people like me, and there's certainly contemporaries of mine as well. I'm not the only one to see this clearly, but I think people like me and smaller companies, and even some like mid-market independent guys will kind of be able to move and pivot fast enough where they'll kind of take advantage of this opportunity. I don't think agencies are going to go away, by the way. I just think they're going to look very, very different in the future. And I think that future is like rapidly upon us.
Yeah. John, it was a pleasure talking with you. Thanks very much for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Appreciate it.
If anyone wants to find you, where do you hang out? I know that you share stuff on LinkedIn, but where can people read your stuff or hear about your companies and stuff like that? I'll leave the notes obviously in the show, but like if people want to follow you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so the best two places, really the best place is LinkedIn. So if you just follow me on LinkedIn, John Ghiorso, I'm the only one. And then if you want to check out the companies, we're building Vanta5.com, just simple links to the various websites for the businesses. But if you want to hear about the journey, LinkedIn is for now the place I'm hanging out mostly.
Great. Thanks again, John. It was a pleasure talking with you.
Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Appreciate it.